Frisco. We are back with the real LeadHERs of Frisco, and if you've been following us for the month of May, you notice that we have had some amazing women on this month. We started the month with women from the police department and had just an incredible time learning about their stories. And now we have some really hot ladies on today, and hot being the operative word, because we have some women from our own Frisco Fire Department, and we're going to have some just amazing conversation with them on what got them into this role and just hear a little bit about their stories. So stay with us as we talk to our very own Frisco firefighters today. And I have with me Kelly and Lauren, and they're going to do a little bit of an introduction and tell a little bit about themselves, and then we're just going to jump right in. Kelly.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate this. It's going to be a good time. My name is Kelly Russell. I've been with the Frisco Fire Department for 6 years. Prior to that, it was a different career for me altogether. I was in the world of health and fitness and was an instructor for the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Did that for quite a while. And when I did decide to make the transition, obviously that background was a tremendous help in being able to have for the physicality of the job. So yeah, I've enjoyed my time with the Frisco Fire Department. I'm also part of the Frisco Firefighters Association, one of the vice presidents, which has really been a fun addition, a way to celebrate the fellowship of the brother and sisterhood. So also a really great addition for firefighting as well.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
I get to piggyback off that. Hi, my name is Lauren Tippett. I'm about 2 years in to the fire service. I coached college basketball for 9 years before I decided to make the switch. So much like Kelly, we had previous careers before we got into this. Very physical and kind of fitness adjacent as well. Definitely helped us, I think both of us transition into the physical aspect as well. It's very opposite and very similar a lot of ways with my background, because it was all women and I'm around all men, barring Miss Kelly here. But very similar. That team atmosphere was definitely something that drew me to the job. The camaraderie, that brother sisterhood. Living at the fire station every third day is very much like being on the road with a team of 25 women for a week at a time. So there's a lot of things that go on with that. So, but no, it's been great. Frisco's been phenomenal. I'm still learning. Officially a firefighter paramedic, so we kind of hit the ground running here at Frisco. So again, thank you for having us. Should be a good conversation.
I am so excited to have y'all. And first of all, before we even get started, I want to thank you for what you do for Frisco, because our lives depend on people like you every day to get to the scene and do whatever you need to do to save our lives and our property. And so thank you for what you do, for putting your life on the line for us. We really appreciate it. So let's dive in, because, Lauren, you hit on something that I want to kind of just jump into. For firefighters, and I'm still learning, so you guys correct me, but you guys have to stay at the firehouse, right? So you're there sometimes overnight. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So just kind of talk to us about what that feels like in a male-dominated environment. I mean, everything you do is it's very physical. And so even though you guys were in very physical spaces before joining the fire department, you're under intense scrutiny now to be very, very physically fit in order to do your job. So let's just talk about the physical aspect of it as a woman, but also just what it's like to be a woman in the fire department and to experience what you experience there every day.
Sure. So I'll touch on that first thing you mentioned. What is it like? And so we do, in Frisco, we do 24 hours on duty and 48 hours off. So while you're at the fire station, you are 100% living there. You are eating there, you are sleeping there, you are working out there, you are doing laundry there, you are doing dishes, you are going to the store. It's very much it's a home, really. I mean, we are a family for the next 48 hours, and we are lucky enough. We're actually on the same crew, which is interesting awesome. As well, because we're so we have that experience of being together 24 hours. And then a lot of times we end up seeing each other on off days, and that's the entire crew. We'll get together, we'll do different things. All of us have different hobbies, a lot of them very physical. And so we spend time off duty together as well, which kind of really makes you feel even more like it's a family. But we have all the same responsibilities that you would running a house. You're cleaning. It's also like you're washing your car. You're taking care of our equipment, and we're doing everything. And it's a very team atmosphere. And I know Lauren hit on, coming from basketball, that world, and she was an athlete. I was an athlete. I played softball. So we've kind of grown up, so to speak, in that team atmosphere. And I think that also lends itself very, very well to firefighting, because you will depend on not only strength in numbers, but also be able to rely on different strengths and weaknesses that each team player might have. And a lot of times having that number of people, whether it's 2 people on scene, 5 people, or even more if we send more apparatus, the job gets done very effectively because there's a lot of different strengths that when they all come together, we're able to provide really the best service for the citizens in having that combination of players, if you will.
Wow. I didn't think about it from that perspective. You are physically living there, eating, working, to your point, doing laundry, and that it becomes just like your home away from home, and that's really incredible. So, talk a little bit about, before we pivot to Lauren, talk about what that feels like, because you actually have a home, you have a family,
Absolutely.
and now you have
Yes.
a second home. I mean, is there, when you're at the fire department, is there an expectation that you're the woman of the group, and so you will do certain chores there in the fire department? And just kind of talk about what that looks like.
So, honestly, we are all responsible for everything. So we all pitch in. It is, I do tend to have, as Lauren, I think you also have some amazing cookie recipes. I've got to experience those. So we may bring certain strengths that the boys may not possess in quite the same degree.
Yes.
And we're happy to share those strengths with them, because usually we find that if you can cook, that is not even in the firehouse alone, but if I can cook, it's going to make most people happy. So those are definite strengths that just, I guess, being a mom and things that have transitioned well to the firehouse, because they have never not accepted a baked good.
I can imagine.
100%.
But in terms of we do everything. So we'll be washing rigs, we'll be out there training. You'll see us throwing ladders, pulling hose. I'm working with some of our veteran firefighters to learn how to drive the engine and pump the engine. So, there is that camaraderie of bringing other people up and training them to come up. Because, as you progress through the chains of command and different ranks, they want to be able to say, yeah, she was with us for this long, or he was with us, and they're a good fireman and they're going to do a good job out there. So I think that's a driving force for us too, is we want to be the best that we can, not only for our crew and for the citizens, but so that, our reputation is a good one and we're trusted to do our job really, really well. So
Yeah, absolutely. As far as chores, everybody's responsible for everything. It's less of a gender specific role, and if you can cook, male, female, they don't matter. You'd be surprised.
There's a few males we don't let cook.
Yeah, there's some people that no, and then there's some, like, everybody's got their specialty. You bring different things to it, but it's very much a family. But same thing goes on the fire scene. Like, if it's you pull hose or you go and we gotta force entry and get through a door.
Yep.
Firefighter's a firefighter, driver's a driver. You do your job. We're expected to show up and be just as capable, everything inside the firehouse as well as outside of it and on scene, whether it's EMS or fire related. So if it's cutting through, garage door or venting a roof or getting through or finding the fire and putting it out, which is the basis of what we do. Once we're all in gear, you can't tell male or female. It's get the job done and go at it. So
yeah, it's interesting you say that, because in my interview with the PD department, the women there felt the same way. They said, I'm a police officer first. The fact that I am a woman police officer certainly plays a factor, but I am first and foremost a capable police officer. Sure. And the same thing, it sounds like what you guys are saying,
Absolutely.
is that I'm a firefighter, and when people have a need for someone to put out a fire or EMS, they're not checking your gender. They're like,
Absolutely
here,
not.
save my house, save me.
They're handing you their baby.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
and jumping to you out of the window,
Yes.
essentially. They're expecting you to keep them safe and
Yes.
get them out,
Yeah.
so they don't care.
Love that. Love that.
I will say an advantage, I guess, more so or less, with being women is mostly on the EMS side that I've seen, or direct contact with public, because I will say it is a different feel, and even the guys know, like, if you need a 12 lead EKG or certain situations with female patients or female family members, it is, or even kids, they're less apprehensive to go to a strange. Granted, they're all big, tough looking, strong, which they would love for me to tell them that and put that on publication. So you guys are all very tough and strong, with your mustaches. But it can also be.
Oh yeah, the fire.
I love their mustaches. Love their mustaches.
You guys have to tell me what's the deal with that later on. But yeah,
my rule is if you're single and under 40, don't have it. But but again, and our guys know that too. It's like, okay, they're like, nope, tip, you go, like, 12 lead, they hand you the cables regardless if it's your patient or not. And I think and in some ways it kind of protects them and it makes them more versatile as well. So as a crew, we function very few things I think we can't handle. Our presence definitely helps, but it doesn't hinder it in any way. But kids are also more likely to go to one of us versus a strange man. But it's just nature. It's at its core. So
makes sense. So y'all just talked about so many different things that you have to do, from pulling hoses and washing the truck, and the list goes on, not to mention, running toward a fire as opposed to running away from a fire, and catching people from buildings. I mean, it's just, as you're just kind of throwing this out as if it was just kind of casual day at the office, I'm thinking, oh my God, you actually have to do all of this. Talk to me about how you made the decision to go into this incredible field where you put your life on the line every day, and it's mentally demanding, it's physically demanding, you're away from home. What went through your mind? How did you make that decision? And there may be women out there today who are contemplating making this kind of transition. What went through your mind? How did you make the final decision that you wanted to go into firefighting?
I guess I'll start since I made it most recently. I'm terrible at paperwork and behind a desk, which was one of the lesser appealing parts of coaching Division I basketball. There's more paperwork and traveling and things like that than you realize. College basketball was the best job in the world until it just wasn't, and it was about time I had made a change. And it was very challenging for future thoughts like a family and different things like that. Kelly's definitely one up on me. She's got 2 kids, an awesome mom, and a husband. Transitioning to this was a big part of that. I wanted something that would be more family, I guess, oriented, which is ironic enough to say because we are away 24 hours at a time, so it's not the best. But essentially my family would get me for 48 nonstop. But as far as the appeal to the job, I love the physicality of it. It was always something new. There was no complacency for the most part. If you get complacent, somebody gets hurt. So we're constantly training, EMS side, fire side as well, rescue side, whatever it is. Being down 2 in, a double overtime game with a 30-second timeout, that's a very high-pressure situation. Very different compared to going into a burning building, but pressure's pressure. So I'd experienced some of that and had realized the way I guess more or less performed under pressure, and I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So, and I have some family members in the service and some close friends, so it was something I was like, I thought I could always do it and would be decent at it.
Yep.
Then I thought I was way too old because transitioning at 30, I was like, "There's no way I can do this." I was like,
I feel young now.
There's got to be there's got to be an age gap, and also I'm very much a former athlete, so can I really go and do this, and can my body get it done? But I essentially pulled the trigger and said I got a year. So I was unemployed for 11 months and 3 weeks until I got picked up by Frisco, because I was like, I'm going to have to go to Starbucks or something. Like, there's income. But I cashed in what retirement I had and said, okay, I'll put myself back through school and see if I can get it done. And thankfully, I lucked out. And Frisco, somebody's on the hiring committee and was dumb enough to give me a chance. So I haven't made them fire me yet. So far, so good.
So let's just pretend we're not on podcast and Chief Pilot and the team are not watching.
Isn't pausing everything I say right now. Sorry, Chief. Yeah.
Has there ever been a moment where you thought, wow, what in the world did I do?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I haven't had that either.
I've had the moment where, holy hell, this is my job. Like, I've had that one. I was like, ooh, this is so much fun. I've had that.
It's so me. I love that.
I mean, coaching was awesome. Don't get me wrong. There's still some aspects I miss from it, the connection with the kids and different things, but there's so many different variables in coaching, and relating with the kids was like 10% of your daily.
Yeah.
And I guess we almost, to some degree, have some instant gratification, More or less, because when people call 911, that's their worst day. You don't just dial it if you think you can solve the problem on your own and you might need some assistance.
Yeah.
That is panic button mode.
Yeah.
So we show up on scene. It's everybody's worst day for the most part, or they're scared to death or something's going on.
Wow.
We're looked to answer and solve the problem. We might not always have it, but that's when we rely on each other. Like what Kelly was saying, we've got a pretty solid team, especially 3C. Like, very few things we show up and we're not going to figure out how
that
to
we
get
can't
this solved.
mitigate.
Yeah,
We're going to mitigate the chaos, and we're going to bring calm.
We've got
and
2 great
solve the problem.
officers. Like, we've got a great team of firefighters around us, 2 drivers that are very seasoned and probably 2 of the best. I put them up against anybody in our department.
For sure.
So this crew will show up and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But you guys dial 911 and expect us to solve your problem.
Absolutely.
For
So
sure.
Absolutely.
I guess that instant gratification piece, like that's
yeah.
okay, I actually did something
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Even if it's like you were scared, you called 911 because you had a bloody nose, you couldn't get it to stop bleeding, or your kid had a seizure because they popped a fever, which is a very normal thing. But as a first-time parent, it scares the absolute hell out of you.
Yeah.
I don't have kids yet, and I'm like, you want to see us move quick? Have a kid on scene. Like that's when we start hustling.
Wow.
But we know immediately, at least we can explain what's going on, get your kid to the doctor, get you to the surgeon, whatever you need, pull you out of the car that's crashed, make your day a little bit better. So it's like, okay, I actually did something with my day.
All right, y'all. I just want to thank you again. When you hear these stories...
It sounds a lot better. I might have just really glamorized it,
but you hear these stories of what you guys do, and you're right. It's not like you're embellishing. This is what you do. I mean, we've all seen it, and so thank you. This is
we
incredible.
also run on stubbed toes and panic attacks too that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
emergencies, but there are the days where it's like you get one good call and you're
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
we did something today.
Yep.
Love
It
it.
was worth all of it.
Love it. So, Kelly, when did you decide, and what went through your mind that this was the transition you wanted to make, and how did you make that decision?
Yeah, well, I wish I was her age when I made the decision, but I was a little bit older. I had been in the fitness industry for quite a while, and then I had taken a little break to have some babies, and always stayed very, very active. I was a personal trainer and like a fitness educator and all those things. So that came by that pretty honest in terms of keeping myself in good shape and working hard. And you know, I had been, like I said, I'd been an athlete, and I actually got recruited in college because I was in California is where I grew up, and don't get mad at me, anybody. And they out there, they had a great fire academy, and they would come over to the female athletes because that's a big, there's a mentality thing. There's already, you know how to work as a teammate. You already, you know, usually have a very good work ethic and discipline. And those are all things that, gender aside, you need all those things. And so they would approach us as, you know, female athletes. And I'm like, oh, you know, kind of want to finish my softball career and maybe finish school. And then, yeah, think about it, you know. And so I was drawn to it then, but I was way too young, way too immature, and just didn't, I think you have to be very confident in yourself and able to be assertive and confident in your decision making. And I think for me that came, you know, in my later 20s, early 30s, to where I knew I had the physicality, and now I had the head on my shoulders too that matched, and really would have made me more of a whole package, I think, and, you know, successful in this career. So I found it a little bit later, and I went through a Citizens Fire Academy, and it wasn't with Frisco, but it was with Little Elm. That's where I live. And those guys were a huge part of, I think they recognized something, and they took it upon themselves to encourage it. And that was really awesome. That's what kind of, I mean, I was doing the same things that I'm doing now. They were doing it as the Fire Academy and the Citizens Fire Academy. And I was like, you know, and they're over there like, have you thought about doing this? And I'm like, well, yeah, I thought about it, but I thought I was a little bit too old. And they're like, nah, you're not too old. Just keep doing what you're doing, girl. And, you know, we'll help you any way we can. And they did. And I also had the encouragement and support from my husband, which, you know, without that, I would never be in the position that I'm in, because we've been married, it'll be 19 years in October. So you can imagine, you know,
Good for you guys.
kiddos, and we've lived in a couple different states, and I went from working to staying at home, just doing personal training on the side, back to school. I had to go to fire school and paramedic school, and so we've obviously been through quite a number of changes, just as a couple, and then as a family with kids, and we've made those transitions, I think, very, very well. They haven't all been easy, but Google Calendar is a lifesaver. If you don't have that, yes, because I can keep everybody's
Organizing
schedules.
everything.
But yeah, and then I guess to touch on a little bit being older and being in this career, both Lauren and I have a background in kinesiology and exercise science, but my husband also has a background. He's a little bit more in depth even than what I'm able to do. And he's been able to keep me in working condition, so to speak. There's some miles on this engine, but he always is like the first one to help out with soft tissue help and just knows that the toll on the body, the physicality of the job, and understands it, and has just been a huge help for me to be able to stay as active and as put up with the demands that this job has on my body. So, all of those are just blessings, but that's kind of, hopefully I still answered your question there, how I kind of got into it.
Yeah, you did. I love both of your experiences and how you came at the decision to do what you did, and I'm thankful that you did. I would love to hear a little bit about, so you made this decision, you're doing incredible work in the community, but the reality sometimes is you're a woman in a male-dominated industry. We all know that. What kinds of microaggressions or slights have you guys had to encounter as women in this profession? And it may not have been from your peers. It may be when you go out into the community. It may be perceptions from your family. What kinds of things have you encountered when people understand, okay, you're a woman firefighter? I mean, have you had to encounter some of that? And how do you combat that?
I think mine have been more from the public. Like, people will be like, "Oh, we didn't know women could do this job."
Our patient yesterday.
Yeah, or you're gonna drive the ambulance, and we're like, and we're gonna give you an IV, and we can take your airway if we need to. We can do a lot of things. We can shock you at 360 joules if you'd like.
I can innovate and do CPR.
So obviously we don't, that's not how the conversation goes, but in our heads we're like, oh yeah, this is, we can drive the ambulance. Yeah, we got that. Yeah.
They let women do that.
Yeah, but so, I think we take that in stride. I don't think we don't stop and pause and feel the need to course correct. We go on and do our job.
Especially in public.
And I think one of the things, and I have not felt this directly, but I think I'm sensitive to it, is just being assertive sometimes can maybe rub people the wrong way. I think as a female, and you're assertive in your decision making, and not everybody's going to necessarily agree with it, or they may, feel like, oh, that's, she's so aggressive, or whatever. And there's probably other words that could be used. You could fill in the blank.
I was waiting on you to go there. But
yeah. So I was trying to be nice, Chief.
There's a little 5-letter word that's attached, but yeah.
I don't know that I've necessarily, felt that on the job. I think I'm just sensitive to that perception. Yeah. And, because I feel like, I think you would say the same in terms of, we're confident, we're going to make decisions. Yeah. And, if it's when you're riding the ambulance and you're considered the officer of that and in charge of patient care. So, I'm open to suggestions, but I have the ultimate say on, how I want that scene to be run. If the officer needs to talk with me about something, then we can, and we'll, and I think we're both very open to, especially with our own crew, like, anybody, am I missing anything? Does anybody see something I don't see? And we have those conversations a lot. And because you never want to have tunnel vision, and I think that's the benefit of having, like I said, a group. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you're on the ambulance, you're in charge of not only that apparatus, but you're in charge of that patient. And so, maybe not everybody agrees, but if you're doing the right thing for the right reason for that citizen, and you can
advocate for them.
Yeah, and I think so. Like I said, and it may just be me. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I think it's something I'm sensitive to. Just, I don't want, men can be aggressive a little bit easier, and it's like, oh yeah, they're a go-getter, they're going to bust through walls.
Sometimes the standards are a little different.
Yeah,
a little bit of a double standard with anything,
but I'm not going to back off either. If I think that it's the right thing for the right reasons, and then I'm going to.
100%. It's funny you say hypersensitive. That's probably a good call. I think we're just more keenly aware to certain things. We talked about being physical. End of the day, men are built different than women anatomically. You know that. I know that. We all know that. there are the hyper feminists that are like, no, we can do absolutely the same thing. I'm like, we can work really hard and do the same things. But end of the day, brute force is just brute force with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I think I walk in, especially when I got hired, I knew I was going to have to prove myself physically every single day. So when even if you work, I work a bunch of overtime. Kelly, not so much, although we did just work 48 together. But I know if I'm working with a new crew, the first thing they're going to do is size me up and want to know if I can physically do the job. So a lot of times early on, it's like, hey, let's go throw ladders and let's go train. Or let's go do a forcible entry and let's go train. And it can really it can kick your butt if you don't know how to do things certain ways. And then ladders aren't necessarily heavy, but they're awkward. So the ability to hold and throw it and place in different ways, like it takes skill set, like strength, stability. Like you have to have practiced these things. You can pull any Joe Schmo off the street or a complete gorilla out of the gym who is just roided up and meathead, but get him to throw a ladder, you have to know a specific way to do it. So they want to know, because you want everybody, you want to know if they can do the job. If something goes down, can they get you out of the building? Can we keep each other safe and keep the citizens safe? So there's a lot of, let's go train. I'm like, I know exactly where this is going. I might be hypersensitive to it because I assume that I'm going to have to prove myself, so I make it a point to make sure, which Kelly does as well, that we are on point every day.
Yep.
Might mean getting in the gym a little bit more, like doing certain things, but my biggest thing when I did this is like, I don't want to become a liability on scene, either from lack of knowledge or lack of skill set. I'm not going to sit there and become a patient.
Sure, no, of
Rule
course,
number one, don't become a patient.
Never.
But also get into a position where the people I'm around, the guys or the women I'm around, don't trust me and think that I can't do my job. Because I got to trust blindly, even if we met today, that if we go into this fire and it pops off, you and I can get each other out. So, yes, it's very much like having 200 brothers and sometimes uncles or father-like figures, depending on the relationship. But you also, it's not just, hey, can we kick it for 24 hours? It's like, when this pops off, I know you can do your job. And you can take an order, give an order, make a decision, whatever it is, and we're all on the same page. And the ability to make that decision and that skill set alone is very valuable, but also the ability to take an order or follow a decision that's made that wasn't necessarily yours, or you might think is something different, but that comes with teamwork. I think that's the background in athletics as well. And again, we're a little biased because that's all we've known, but understanding kind of chain of command, but also why decisions are made, and we're not necessarily privy to every decision that's made. We don't get to know why, and that's okay. But lieutenant says X, Y, and Z, or captain says X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is. We trust them. We know that they know their stuff. They trust us. We all train together. So it's things like that. And end of the day, this job isn't for everybody, male or female.
Sure.
Yeah, it's funny. One of my aunts and I got into a heated discussion because a cousin of mine, she's a female firefighter down in Baytown. So... and it was like, oh, you and Chloe both do X, Y, and Z. How'd y'all get into this? Is it something, the family or whatever? I was like, I think we both just kind of found it, and we absolutely love it. She's phenomenal at her job as well. And she was like, we need more women. I was like, we need the right women. And it is okay.
I love that.
And it's okay if it's not for you. And there's guys that it's not for them.
Yeah.
We've seen men leave too. We need the right people to do the right jobs.
Yep.
And it is nothing against you if you try it and it's not for you.
Yep.
Like, when I told people I was getting out of coaching, like, I shocked my entire world because they never thought I would leave. But I was like, I need something else. And then I was like, so this is what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go be a firefighter and a paramedic. They're like, oh, that makes sense. So it's one of those things. Like, I can't put a label on it. I can't tell you exactly what it is. But you work with people, and poor Kelly's on the hiring committee, so she's really got to shuffle through. And we give her more crap than we probably should about, like, well, why is this and this? And again, Kelly has to hear it from all of us. But it's good because I think coming from certain things, you can pick up on problem solving or give somebody like an ethical question and see how they deal with it, or different things. You really don't know until you work with them, and that teamwork and everything else. But it's not just, hey, I can throw this ladder. It's, hey, I can work on scene with people. Hey, I can understand that even though it's 3 a.m. and you called me because your toe hurts and you stubbed it 8 hours ago and didn't call me then, like, got me out of bed for whatever reason, like, I still understand you called 911 and I have to show up and at least help you. You know, it's different things. So it's not for every woman. Should the right women absolutely apply for the job and be aware that it's out there and they can make a difference? 100%. But the right men as well. So, and I think with us, it was a bit of a lack of knowledge on how to make the transition and what age was too old, because both of us had the same question.
Yeah.
And I was like, we just didn't know, so we had to kind of source it out and ask the right people. But
Yeah.
I love that. So you said something earlier, and I just want to hit on that and kind of get both of your perspectives. You know, we've heard this term or this anecdote across industries where women feel as though they have to work twice as hard to do the same job as a man. And so, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're in corporate or whether you are in law enforcement. You know, that's just the perception that people have, is that, you know, if you're a woman coming into a male-dominated environment, you have to work twice as hard, or you have to work harder to prove yourself. Have you guys felt or sensed that you had to come in and you had to train twice as hard to be given the credibility, or you had to do something 2x in order to be on the same footing as your male counterparts? Have you seen that or experienced that?
Well, I think I mean, I'll speak for me, and I think we've even talked about this, that, you know, we weigh, 150 pounds? Like, not together.
A strong
We're
150.
strong. We're
That's a solid
150, okay?
Proud
And
150.
so when we put gear on, I mean, it's 70 pounds whether you weigh 300 pounds or you weigh 150 pounds. The gear weighs the same. So we're putting gear on, we're carrying tools, we're carrying a 45-pound water can, or we're pulling hose. It's the same amount of water, the same amount of weight, and weight moves weight. So those that are a little bit heavier may not have to work at as high a capacity on the spectrum, like we'll say heart rate, just for ease of everything. So for us to do the same amount of work, we are going to have to work harder to do the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, in my mind, I'm going to work so much harder. Like, that's part of it, because you have to be willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because there's a lot of discomfort that comes with working at a really, really high heart rate for an extended period of time. It becomes uncomfortable. You become hypoxic. You get a lot of burning a lot of places, if you know what I'm saying. So
And it's hot.
and it's hot.
So hot.
And so you're dealing with that. So you mentally have to be in the game, saying I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, and then physically you need to train yourself in your off days and also at the station how to work at a high end of your heart rate and be effective at doing the job, at lifting heavy things. Almost everything in the fire service is heavy.
All of it.
We have tiny hands. So our grip is challenged in a way that the males might not be, and we know this, and we do our best. Thank goodness we have exercise experience and how to train certain ways. That's been immensely beneficial in just being able to be effective. So I don't know that it's a feeling like, oh, I need to work twice as hard. I think physically you do need to work harder because you're smaller. And so you need to be on point with technique. Lauren hit on that already. And, you know, it may be a little bit more finesse, because we can't go just, the brute force guys are going to run through the wall. We're going to be like, well, I have a tool for that, and I can, and I'm in the wall just as fast, but you went through it, and I went through it, but I used my tool.
We also
work
fit,
smarter and not harder sometimes.
Yeah.
That is it.
we also fit in smaller places. So
We do, we do fit in smaller places. We can get in a window pretty easily in the back of a car and, you know, get to the patients. And so and I kind of brought that up too, like the strengths and weaknesses, you know, or being able to identify compassion. I think that's something that we probably have a little bit more of. Our guys are phenomenal, but I think sometimes the public, you know, you can kind of read the scene and it's like, you know, let me step in and you know, do this a little bit different or word it a little bit different. And I think, you know, not only is our crew receptive to it, but the public's receptive to it. And, you know, so again, it's just knowing those strengths and weaknesses and being able to, and not being afraid to work hard, because this is hard work. Don't make no mistake.
No,
Yeah.
It might be something I've put in my own head, which very, very well could be. I am a bit of a perfectionist and don't love to make mistakes, and I try not to make the same mistake twice. But I do think, whether it is a fictional, made-up double standard in my head or it actually does exist, I do feel like if we make a mistake on scene or whatever it is, A, we can't make it twice, and B, like, if you screw up big time, it's going to stick with you, because everybody's sitting around waiting to go, yep, she did this because she's a woman. And granted, anybody I've worked with at Frisco has never given me that vibe.
Yep.
And it may not be fair to hold our guys to that. So if y'all are watching, sorry, you understand where I'm coming from on this.
I'll turn her mic off.
But yeah, we'll edit this out. But there is part of that. It's like, no, you already don't look like everybody else. You know what I mean? So like, again, regardless of why you got hired or whatever it was, maybe they did want a little more diversity. So me having zero experience getting hired by somebody on the hiring committee, zero experience coming in, I was like, are they insane? Why did they let me do this job? What is wrong with them? Like, they pay me to show up and do all these things. I'm still learning on the job to do this. Maybe, being a woman's part of the reason I got hired, but it's damn sure not going to be the reason they keep me. So that's part of it. Is like, no, I'm going to make sure I can do my job, and I'm very successful at it. In the places I lack, your ego's going to have to take a back seat, and you better work on all those things. Because end of the day, I'm not as big as the Danny Watkins or some of our big guys that can just like pick up a loaded hoe and just go inside. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to use my legs, take a break, and then get in there. I'll get there eventually. But the same strengths and weaknesses piece. But at the same time, if you're not prepared and you do screw up on scene, there are going to be a lot of people that are waiting to be like, oh, okay, that's why. This is why we can't have women here. This is why whatever. I was like, I'm not going to let that be the reason. Like, that's not going to stick to my name or my career. And I think I say a lot of our women, it's you, me, and Chelsea. Yeah. So we only have 3 at the time, but we know a lot of different women in different departments that have a very similar mindset. Some of my closest friends on the female fire side or the fire world, who I went through the academy and paramedic school and stuff with, same mindset. I think I very much gravitate to like-minded people, Kelly included, and that's also men as well. Because we have some guys that are our size. We're taller than a couple guys we work with, so they have to work hard at certain things too, in technique, and we've relied on them for certain things, throwing ladders and different pieces. And they're like, hey,
the short guys,
they're like, we're not tall.
With the ladders.
Come here, let me show you what. I was like, absolutely, because 6'4", you can show me all you want. You're 6'4", the leverage is there. That's just physics. I need to learn from somebody who's,
had to overcome it themselves and learn the techniques.
And those are the guys that have their ego took the back seat, and they sit there and they're like, end of the day, I don't care, you're the same size as me, this is what works, let's get this done. Because if we have somebody hanging out of a window or one of our guys go down, it's you and me that got to go in and get them. And we got to figure it out. So
really powerful insight. I mean, one of the things that you both have said is, and it's true, in across, again, different industries, is as women, sometimes when we are in male-dominated environments, or there's just a few of us, and in your case, there's only 3 of you, what you do represents not just your performance, but it represents women. And you said it, Lauren, it's like, if you make a mistake, unfortunately, it's not just Lauren's mistake, but it could be how people view women in firefighting. So you guys have a significant level of pride, I think, that you should have with what you're doing, but also a significant burden to bear, because you know that you, in many cases, are carrying the banner for not just you, but for women who will come behind you. And so as we kind of take our conversation towards a close, I would just love to hear from you guys in terms of lessons learned along the way that you might give to someone who is contemplating as a woman getting into firefighting. And let's say they are just out of college and they're trying to make a decision, or they're much like the both of you who made a complete lane change, the midway through your career. I mean, what kind of lessons learned? What advice would you give to them? And you can turn towards the camera and just share those.
I'll start with, I guess, our experience, and I say our because a male firefighter, mutual friend, reached out and said, hey, this girl, Lauren, good friend of mine, she wants to be a female firefighter. And I was like, nice. I'm like, give me your number. And he's like, would you call her, kind of tell her, about, and you were in fire academy already. And so there was 3 or 4 girls, maybe more, in the fire academy.
4 of us total, so I got them all together.
Yeah, so I reached out to her and I was like, hey, you guys want to get together and we can talk about what challenges you're having, what things might be going on. So really, I think, making yourself available to those that want to come up and that are already striving, they're already working to be in this career, and you're offering them camaraderie, any advice, anything that they're struggling with. You're just open and you're like, hey, do you guys have questions? What can I answer for you? What can I tell you about this service that you're, 330-pound brother might not be able to tell you that will help you be successful. And what are lessons that I've learned where I kind of screwed up and I was like, God, I wish I wouldn't have done that, but this is what I did. This is how I've tried to overcome it. So those are things that I think it's invaluable. And I think it really is our job is to bring each other up and the right candidate at the same time. So much to what you said, whether it's, one of our brothers that's coming into the service or one of our sisters, bring that person up as much as you can and try to help them be successful. But I do think it's more comfortable, and you maybe could speak to that as being the recipient, if somebody is there able to kind of say, hey, I want to spend time with you guys. I want to figure out, I want to talk to you. I want to know you. And I'm going to reach out to you numerous times. And I would check in with them at Fire Academy, like, how's it going? Do you guys need help with anything? Can I come down and train? Do you, whatever it was. And hopefully that.
Oh yeah, Kelly was an awesome resource for us. It was, but it was basic questions like, what sports bras do we wear? Because the guys are like, they would sit there and freak out about like no synthetic materials. Because when it, like, let me break that down a little bit. When it gets hot, like we are supposed to wear cotton only because synthetic stuff can melt. So we're in environments potentially that are so hot, your clothes and certain things underneath our gear could melt before our gear fails. So women, we go, hold up.
Yeah.
What sports bra can I find that is cotton?
That's gonna work.
So one of the girls who now works at Little Lamb was like, what is it? Like, what do we? And so it was one of those, and I reached out to a good friend of mine. I was like, hey, you've mentioned Kelly before. Can you give me her number? Like, we got just basic female questions. Because one of them was like, so what sports bra? And the guy's like, we don't know.
Can't help you there.
And it wasn't for lack of trying. There's not to say I don't have mentors or older and experienced firefighters and even officers now I rely on for certain questions and career directions, because I absolutely do. But there are some questions that women are just going to have to ask other women for it to be like, and Kelly was like, okay, don't worry about this, and this. Like, if you're in that environment, it's that hot, we got other problems, not your sports bra. I was like, cool. So just little things. And it was good to have a resource and to kind of rely on her. Hell, I still rely on Kelly. She's a mom.
I do the same. I rely on this one too.
I mean, she's a mom and has already gone through the husband and having the kids. And it's like, okay, so if I start, like we were talking last night, I was like, God, if I have kids, I'm going to have to back to back. Because then you got to go out of the service. So it's not just like, hey, you're on maternity leave. It's, hey, you got to go give birth and then be with, little guy, little girl for a while, deal with mom guilt, leaving them, and also get your butt back in shape to come back. Sure. And then I'm like, so all of a sudden I was sitting there.
So we've decided either twins are good for Lauren?
No, that's not. She keeps wishing that on me. I don't.
Or like, what would you call them? Irish twins? One right after the other?
Irish twins. That's what we discussed last night.
We decided that.
And my eyes were about this big. I was like, it's time to go
She's
to bed.
like, don't you put that on me.
It's like, don't wish that on me.
I love the fact that, what you guys are speaking to is the importance of having other people like yourselves where you can have this sisterhood. And it's wonderful that you guys have been able to forge a path in a male-dominated environment, but there's sometimes you just need another woman who you can have that relationship with. And I love the fact that you guys have forged that sisterhood. You hit on so many different things that we could be here all day when we talk about just, the differences that you guys come at this with and the things that you have to think about it being women in firefighting. But one of the things that I'd love to kind of be our maybe parting conversation is, how do you balance it all? You're a mom. You mentioned at some point you will be a mom, and the mom guilt. I think about just my own life as an executive. And when I had my daughter, she's 19 now, but I remember I had to travel immediately after I gave birth because that was the nature of my job. And the guilt is real.
Sure.
And so I can only imagine. And I was gone maybe a few times a month, but you guys, the nature of your life is you are out of the house physically. Sure. That's just what you do. So how do you, if you were talking to another woman who was anticipating getting into this field, or Kelly, as you're talking to Lauren, like, how do you balance it all? And how do you make sense of it in your mind that I want to do this, but I also want to be a good mom and I want to be a good wife? I mean, there are many hats that you have to wear.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit it perfectly. And I think, number one, obviously your spouse. And I think, Fire Academy is a bit of a try on, but also, as you do paramedic. I went to shift-based paramedic school, so I wasn't there 24 hours, but I was there every third day. So it started to kind of be a little bit of and that was for 13 or 14 months. So it was almost like training wheels to, I'm going to be away, and these are the things that are going to start how it's going to run in the family, so to speak. And I'm very blessed to have extra support. My mom lives in town as well.
That's great.
So she has been a tremendous help. My husband has a full-time job, a couple of them. So he does some other things on the side too. And, sometimes we just need help. We need someone to pick up the kids, or we need, or maybe we need a date night. I mean, we literally schedule those things. We schedule our time where we can be together without the kids. And I think making sure that you're maintaining your marriage is super important, and putting an emphasis on that, and that they're comfortable with your job, or becoming comfortable with your job and your career. And then, how do you balance that with your kids? They're funny. They know now, like, okay, well, I'll see you. Well, I won't see you tomorrow morning because you don't get home in time, but I'll see you. Can you come eat lunch with me? Or can you, will you be home after school? Or, so I will try to make time to go eat lunch with her. If, my younger one, she's more like, you going to come hang out, Mom? My older one, nah. I'll be cool again one day, I hope. But right now I'm not.
Nah, he's too cool.
No, too cool for school, too cool for Mom, for sure. But just, I think you have to, understand that, yes, you're away. And a lot of times when we're away, it's texting and, you're compartmentalizing kind of what you're doing at the fire station. But then, family life's going on. It's moving on, So I mentioned too, like, Google Calendar has been a lifesaver. Yeah. And as simple as that sounds, I have everybody's schedule on my calendar, and I add my stuff. So, if I'm going to a career day at an elementary school, my family knows, and like I'm out from 8 to noon or whatever, and I'm going to go talk to kids about being a firefighter. Like, how awesome, right? I mean, like, I feel like that's part of what we have to do too, is give back in that way. But I think it's important too that I won't be there for breakfast for the kids, or, this or that. So that's just been something. So, spouse, and then getting the kids on board, and, we do things as a crew with the other families. Yeah. So our kids know the lieutenant's kids and the officers' kids and the other. I mean, Stella's about to start babysitting some of their kids. Like, I mean, she's like, yeah, I'm be mom's helper, to the other kids. Yeah. So, what a cool thing! Like, really it is cool. A small little family, it's even for them.
And rare experience for sure.
The wives. We know the wives, and and it's just it. My husband, they jokingly say he's part of the auxiliary, because usually that's obviously the female spouses, but
he's a firewife.
He's an honorable member. He's a firewife. So, love you, babe. He still wants to find the ones that fish and drink whiskey, and I don't think he's ironed those ones out yet, but he's got one. So,
there you go.
But yeah, it's really just, and I feel like he's got the camaraderie too with the guys, and I think that's a huge part. Like, they know him, he knows them, and
sometimes we'd rather hang out with our coworkers' wives more than our coworkers. So they've got some pretty cool ones.
So yeah, I mean, it's just it's all about, like, having your priorities straight, understanding yourself, knowing how to make, or trying your best to make your relationships work. Yeah. And being as prepared as you can. And I think that's where that Google Calendar stuff kind of comes in, for me at least. And so you got to prioritize, like, maybe you move your workout because you're going to eat lunch, or you have
gotta be
something
flexible.
Yeah. And it's not always that it works out, but and you're gone on weekends, and that's when everybody else is off school, or like Easter weekend, I work Friday and Monday, and the kids are off Friday and Monday. So is it ideal? No, but you figure it out.
I think I'm big on perception. Yeah, things can look like crap one way, but just kind of flip it. So yeah, we're gone 24. And maybe it's just me talking myself into this, like, oh no, don't regret this. This was a great idea. I just kept reinforcing
self-talk.
If I say, I'm a big self-talker, but if I say it enough, it'll be true. Not necessarily mistakes or kind of trials and different things that some of the very successful marriages and relationships have gone through. Having a very supportive spouse is going to be huge. just trying to find a guy to understand that, hey, I live with 8 other dudes every third day. I hope you're secure with this. Like, just that, and kind of understand it. It can be kind of difficult at times, but once I do meet the right guy, have the kids, then I look at it, okay, sucks. Mom's got to be gone for 24, but then I get 48 with you 100% and your attention, which you look at it in a day. So what did we just get done working? What's today? We got off today, Saturday? So we worked Friday and Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, so Friday, Tuesday, Mom was gone 24, but she was 100% there. Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. You know what I mean? So I can be there completely present on the time I'm here versus somebody with a normal 9 to 5 where you get them in the morning, drop them to school. You might get them for an hour between homework and dinner, then it's bedtime. So I'm trying to look at it with quality of time versus actual hours and different things. And then that would also potentially give my husband that time to have his own relationship with the kids that some dads don't necessarily do.
Sure, exactly.
Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. But it's doable. And then you also have kids that's all they know. Like Lieutenant Krause's kids. They grew up in the fire service, and that's all they know. And his wife is an absolute rock star. And Captain Hill's kids knows the same thing, both of them. So they love coming to the fire station, hanging out. Lexi's best friends with Lieutenant's, one of his daughter, and they're like, oh yeah, we're sisters. Like, that's just that's all they know. So
I love what you're saying, because you're right. It's prioritizing, knowing that having a career is important to you, and having this particular career is important to you, and still finding that quality time to be a great mom, a great wife. And it can happen. I know that you're, on the precipice of, at some point getting married and having a family, but it can happen if you want it to happen. And just like you've trained your family to where they understand it's 48 hours here and you're gone. I mean, you get your family accustomed to that cadence, and it works for you. And so it can happen. Have hope.
Oh yeah.
Keep telling yourself that. You obviously have a role model that you can see that it actually
It's when there's
works.
those 48 hours at work that I'm like, oh, this is really going to mess stuff up. I try not to do the 48 overtime, but
I feel bad leaving a dog now. I can't imagine what it'll be like when I have a kid.
Lauren's got good training wheels now. She's got a dog, so I was like, oh, it's a perfect place to start.
Well, ladies, this has been incredible. I love the stories that you shared. I love the transparency, some of the challenges and the things that you have to prioritize in order to do what you do. I'm thankful that you do it. Our city is thankful that you do it. And so it's just been such a pleasure to have you guys with us today. Just take 30 seconds, and if you were doing a recruitment video to women out there either starting their career or looking at a lane change, and you just wanted to tell them why this is important, and sell them on the fact that, having a career in firefighting can be fulfilling. So just take 30 seconds, look into the camera, and you do recruiting for the fire department. So just tell them why this would be a good move for them, and then we'll use that as our final words for this segment.
Yeah, really, I would say, if you are coming from that athletic background and you thrive in the team environment and you thrive in being a good performer and working hard and being comfortable being uncomfortable, then we want you over here, male, female,
whoever it is,
whatever the colors are, let's do it. We want you over here, and the expectation is not perfection, but it's always getting better. We expect you to work hard every single day and, keep yourself in shape on the days that you're not here. Mm-hmm. And this is an amazing city to work for. You will be brought up well, and, you're going to learn a lot. And this will be a career that we have guys starting to retire now that have been in the service for 20, 25 years. How awesome.
That's incredible.
Some of them are going to be in there for over 30. So, that really is telling, I think, to the city as well. But yeah, if you're willing to work hard and you have that team, mentality, and give it a try. Do a Citizens Fire Academy. Do a Junior Explorers. We're starting that this year with the Frisco Fire Department. And get involved and try it out and see how you do. And, look to other firefighters to start bringing you up and answering your questions and helping you along the way.
Yep. We want highly motivated problem solvers. So if that is you, come on with it.
Well, this has been incredible. Thank you again for being here with us. And Frisco, thank you for joining us for our recent edition of the Real Leaders of Frisco. You have heard it right here. These incredible women who put their lives on the line every day for you and I. So again, it's been an honor to talk with you, and you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
us.
Appreciate it.